Okay. All right. Hi, my name is Kristen Martis. I am the president-elect for the Autism Society of North Louisiana. And today we've got Tracy Crump with us from Early Steps. And so, Tracy, if you want to tell them a little bit about your role and things like that.
Yes, first of all, just thank you for the opportunity of allowing me to speak on the behalf of Early Steps. Again, my name is Tracy Crump, and I'm the regional coordinator for Early Steps for Region 8. And Region 8 covers the 12 parishes in Northeast Louisiana. As the regional coordinator, my role is just to oversee the program here in our region, to monitor, to observe, and to provide information to those who are wanting additional information on the program, and also to make sure that the program is flowing the way that it's supposed to. Other things that I do, if there's any questions, concerns, or complaints, they also come through me. But what I want to do today is just to give you some information about Early Steps. So my goal today is to validate the information that you have regarding Early Steps and provide information that you may not be aware of. So let's just start with, what is early intervention? So early intervention is the term used to describe the services and supports that are available to families with babies and toddlers with developmental delays and disabilities. It may include things like speech therapy, occupational therapy, special instruction, or other services based on the needs of the child and the family. So you want to think about what may be needed to address the delays and what support may be needed for our children. When there is a need, there is a requirement. So with early intervention, the needs are assessed based on a family's concerns and priorities. Early intervention can have a significant impact on a child's ability to learn new skills and overcome challenges. It can also increase success in school and in life. Louisiana's early intervention program is called Early Steps. So as I said earlier, this is Early Steps Region 8, which covers the 12 parishes of Northeast Louisiana, but there are 10 regions of Early Steps within the state of Louisiana. So if someone is receiving Early Steps in our region, in Region 8, but they move to Alexandria, which is Region 6, the Early Steps case can follow them. Early Steps is also known as Part C of the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act. This federal law was originally passed by Congress approximately 20 years ago. The school system is known as Part B. Early Steps provides services to infants and toddlers ages birth to 3 who have developmental delays or medical conditions likely to result in a developmental delay. Families enrolled in Early Steps receive services which enable them to help their child progress developmentally and to improve their child's functioning as a family member within the daily routines of the family. And that's the key with early intervention, is the daily routines of the family. The key to success is also the parents' or caregivers' involvement. Early Steps is a family education and training program. Now, some people feel that the provider should be hands-on at all times, but the parent is the one with the child on a daily basis. So by providing education, coaching, and modeling, then the parent is given the tools to assist their child when the therapist is not there. So you think about this. If a provider or therapist is there providing services for your child for 60 minutes per week, a parent or caregiver is available for the remaining 167 hours. So education, coaching, and modeling is definitely needed. It's important. So does early intervention work? Well, many years of research show that early intervention does help children with disabilities. These studies show that children's earliest experiences play a critical role in brain development, and intervention is more effective and less costly when it's provided to very young children than older children or adults. The connections in a baby's brain are more adaptable in the first 3 years of life. These connections are the foundation for learning, behavior, and health. And over time, these connections become harder to change. Early intervention services can change a child's developmental path and improve outcomes for children, families, and communities. And families benefit from early intervention by being able to better meet their children's needs from an early age and throughout their lives. So there's a question. How do you apply for early intervention services with Early Steps? Well, anyone can make a referral to Early Steps. Anyone, not just a doctor, not a nurse, anyone. It could be a parent, it could be the neighbor, it could be a teacher, It doesn't matter. If you have a concern, you can make a referral. And yes, we do still take referrals from others like the doctors and other healthcare providers, but a parent can also make a referral. Referring a child is a simple process. All you have to do is make a call to the Early Step System Point of Entry office, and we call that our SPO office. And we also have a referral form that can be used by physicians' offices and also with community partners. When you speak to someone at the Early Steps office, let them know you have concerns and you would like to schedule an appointment. The telephone number to make the referral is 318-322-4788. And when you make that call, you want to be ready to share specific concerns about your child. You also will be asked for some general information about yourself and your child, such as your name, your child's name, and general demographic information. All the things that you usually have to fill out when you're filling out paperwork for anything. If the family is interested in receiving services, then contact from an intake coordinator who works for the SPO office is made within 3 days, and then a visit is made within 10 calendar days to start working on the activities of the program. So the next question is, how do you know if your child qualifies for Early Steps? Eligibility for services is based on an evaluation of your child's skills and abilities. The child must be between birth to 3 years old, not past their 3rd birthday. 3 years old and 1 day is too old for our program, and they will be referred to the school system. The child must be a Louisiana resident. Child must also have a diagnosed physical or mental condition that has a high probability of resulting in a developmental delay or shows developmental delays through the assessments with Early Steps. For children who have a medical condition, we do have to have that verified, and the medical diagnosis has to be documented by the appropriate professional qualified to do that, such as a pediatrician. We look at areas where a child may be experiencing delays, such as physical, which is crawling, walking, seeing, and hearing. We look at areas such as cognitive, which is learning skills or problem solving. We also look at areas such as social and emotional development, which is playing with others, showing feelings. And then there's communication, which is listening and talking. This is done by various assessments, and it will start with the Ages and Stages questionnaire completed at intake. And then another assessment is the Battelle Developmental Inventory, or BDI, and this is conducted by trained evaluators with Early Steps. So if a child is found eligible to receive services, an IFSP, which is an individualized family service plan, is created for the child. So with Early Steps, we have the IFSP, and with the school system, there is an IEP. Right? During this meeting, the outcomes of the family wants to achieve or identify during this time. And the team decides what services are needed to assist the child and family to achieve these outcomes and who is best to provide services to meet the needs. The process from the initial contact to the completion of the IFSP should take no more than 45 days. So what can you do while you wait for services to begin? Well, sometimes families may have to wait for the services to begin with an early interventionist, direct service provider, therapist, and this can be very, very frustrating. This wait is due to the completion of the case or the availability of a provider. So if you're in this situation, there are some simple things that you can do today and every day to help your child's development. Interaction is the key. Interact with your child as much as possible. Read books, sing songs, play with toys, do household chores, play outside together. You know, you may not always think your child is listening, but your child hears more than what you think that they do. If a child is eligible for services, it depends on the need of the child as to what services will be provided. The need is also based off the concerns of the parent. Remember, off the concerns of a parent, because a parent's concern can be much different than a doctor, a therapist, a friend, or even a grandmother. So it's whatever concerns that you have for your child. The main services that we provide in our area are special instruction, speech therapy, occupational therapy, and physical therapy. All families must accept case management services in order to receive services from Early Steps. If other services are needed, referrals may be made if Early Steps cannot provide it. Early Step services are provided in the home or any other community setting where children live and play. This is what we refer to as the natural environment of the child. It is a setting which would be typical for a child between the ages of birth to 3 years. And some examples of natural environment would be, of course, the home, child care center where the child goes, a park, a grandparent's house. It doesn't matter. That's where the child goes and where they play and where they visit, even a library, that can be considered as a natural environment. So providing services in the natural environment reinforces the gaining of developmental skills that can be practiced throughout the day during the typical routines of the child and the family. Some families receive early step services in the natural environment. However, they also receive outside services in the way of ABA therapy, pediatric day health services, and or clinic therapy. This does not in any way interfere with services provided by early steps, and it is not considered a duplication of services. So a family can receive early step services and they can receive services somewhere else. The only difference is the services for early steps has to be provided in the natural environment. We cannot provide the services at the ABA facility or at the PDHC or so forth. Well, since the start of the global health crisis in March 2020, Early Steps has continued to provide services to families and accept new referrals. That has not changed. We are still providing services, just the way that we provide them has changed. The guidance that we have may look different than before, but again, we are providing services. We're using a hybrid method, and a hybrid method consists of virtual sessions as well as home visits. Home visits can be completed by the evaluators who do the BDI assessment that I mentioned earlier, intake coordinators who work for the SPO, and also our direct service providers or our therapists. However, our case management services with the family support coordination agencies, they're currently being conducted by virtual means only. And the reason why is because this helps reduce the number of people in the home for quarterly team meetings. When a child is 18 months old, an autism screening is completed. This is completed at the initial, as long as the child is 18 months old or older, at the annual, and at exit evaluations. Again, if the child is 18 months or older. The screening process is to identify a child's risk for autism. It is not a diagnosis. Let me say that again. It is not a diagnosis. Positive results means that additional follow-up is required regarding a diagnosis. If the results are negative, it does not mean that the child does not have autism. If the family still has concerns about an autism spectrum disorder, the family should still be referred for follow-up. Regardless of the results, it is up to the family to make their decision whether or not to pursue a diagnostic evaluation. So does Early Steps cost? Well, in 2013, Early Steps implemented family cost participation in an effort to support the Early Steps budget. Cost participation allows families to share in some of the cost for early intervention services that the child receives. Funds received from families are only used for Early Step services. Financial information is gathered at the beginning of the IFSP process and at the annual. Several things are taken into consideration, such as the family's income and the family size. If a family is under the federal poverty level, they may not even experience a cost share amount. And children who are on Medicaid will not have a cost share amount for any direct services. Team meetings, evaluations, and assessments, such as the autism protocol that I mentioned a few minutes ago, those are not subject to a cost share amount. No one will have to pay for that. That's at zero cost to all families, regardless of income. Cost share only applies to direct services. So what are the parents' roles and responsibilities in Early Steps? 1, ask to be shown anything you do not completely understand and practice the strategies together with the therapist, with the direct service provider during the visit. Review the monthly family cost participation explanation of benefits, your EOB, and submit payment if applicable. Everyone, whether you have a cost share amount or not, will receive this. If there is a discrepancy, you'll contact your family support coordinator or you can contact me. Review and sign each provider contact note for each session. These verify your participation and that the provider conducted the session. Use the strategies throughout the day with your child and make notes of what is working and what is not. If it's not working, changes need to be made. Ask questions or tell the service provider if something is not going well. That is very, very important. So what happens when a child is turning 3 and aging out of early steps? When a child enters early steps, transition out of early steps is discussed. So think about it this way. When you go into a hospital, they automatically start working on a discharge plan. We're doing the same thing. So when a child is between the ages of 2 years, 3 months and 2 years, 9 months, a transition conference is held with the school system. This is to discuss the next steps when a child turns 3 and ages out of early steps. The school representative will let the family know about the evaluation process and services with the school system. If a family is not interested in the school evaluation, transition services with a child care center or Head Start can be discussed, as these are other options. Also in Region 8, we have 12 parishes, but we have 13 school districts, and each school district may do something differently. So the meeting will be held with the school representative from the school district in which you are residing. If a family is interested in supports and services from the Office for Citizens with Developmental Disabilities, which is OCDD, it is provided by Northeast Delta Human Services Authority. Paperwork from Early Steps will be forwarded to that office per your consent so that eligibility can be
Tracy, I think it froze up. Can you hear me? Hang tight for just a second. I think she was going to log off and log right back in. The joys of virtual life, it's just
Yes. And it wasn't even my internet. It was
nope.
the state system that,
Oh, bless it.
so, um, honestly, I don't even remember where it kicked out. I think it was just on the summary.
Yes.
Okay. Um, so I apologize for the confusion and the way that this is going to be very, it's going to sound very weird. But anyway, so I just want to just say in summary, it is important that the provider teach skills to the parent that the parent can continue to use in the child's daily activities. Using the activities between visits is equally important as the visit itself. This is where progress does occur. Also, at this age, children learn best from their parents or their caregivers, and children also learn best through repetition and in the environment where the activity actually occurs. And that's why it's very important with early steps that we provide services within the natural environment. One of the other things is act early on developmental concerns to make a real difference for your child and for you. Don't worry about what someone else says or anything. If you have a concern, act early. It doesn't matter if your sister-in-law says, well, my child was doing this, or your child should be doing that, or grandma says whatever. It's whatever, that is your child. Whatever concerns you have, that's what you need to act upon. If you're concerned about your child's development, please do not wait. You know your child better than anyone else. Early Steps is available. There is never a waiting list. We can always determine eligibility. We just need for you to make that call. And to understand the developmental milestones for your child's age, you can explore the CDC website. They have amazing information, and they have a lot of free materials for parents as well. And they also have developmental milestone tracking charts that are great. We use them all the time. I use them even with my own family. You can contact me if you're not able to access that information. I'll be glad to help get that information to you. But I do appreciate the time, and I'm sorry about the mix up with the internet.
That's part of it.
But I do appreciate it. But if anyone has any questions, I've been working from home for a year, so if anyone emails me, then I'll respond immediately.
Okay. And I actually have a question, if that's okay. And you probably covered it. So in the instance of maybe a child that, doesn't have a medical diagnosis of anything like that, but let's say the parents are concerned about speech delays, would they have to have a pediatrician first to say that before? Okay.
No. And that's one of the things, and it's like a lot of times people think, well, the pediatrician won't write an order, or the pediatrician won't do this, or I'm scared to talk to the pediatrician about it, or the pediatrician's in and out of that office within 2 minutes, so they don't have that opportunity. So if that parent has a concern, we don't have to have physician orders to provide speech therapy. Now, for occupational therapy, we can write it on the plan. The occupational therapist has to have the orders, but it's because of their license, but not for anything regarding early steps. So if a family has a concern, all they have to do is to call us. But if for some reason they don't qualify for us, then our responsibility is to offer them resources that may be able to assist them to get the services they need.
I love that. And I love too, because sometimes, some pediatricians may prescribe to that watch and wait mentality, and so this gives the parents empowers them to say, you know what, because if they go through you guys, and then that's a whole nother opinion to say, well, no, they truly aren't delayed, or yes, they are, and we can go ahead with these services. It empowers them to take action.
Exactly. And that's the key right there, is the empowerment. This is your child. And if you don't have that opportunity, and some parents are scared to say anything to the doctor. It's like, okay, here they are. Now let me get out, but they know something's not, they know that their child may be delayed in speech. There you go. I'm telling you, it's today. But it goes back to empowerment. You don't have to worry about what the physician says, or even say, well, let me ask my mom, or let me ask my grandmother and see what they think. If you have that concern, And that's what you need to do. And that's one of the good things about looking at the CDC, just to kind of give you an idea, because people ask me and I'm like, I can't remember, on some things, but you can look at it and it gives you questions to ask your pediatrician. And it's like, yes, my child can do this, or wait, they're not. So let me go ahead and make a call. And then if we don't qualify, I tried, but let me get some resources that can still help me.
I love that. And two, I mean, I'm assuming that, let's say a child was enrolled in early steps 6 or so months or something, and they have made so much gains to where they no longer need the services. Is there like a dismissal process or an evaluation to?
Absolutely. I mean, it's not like, okay, well, my child gets in here at 2 months, so they have to stay into 3 years.
Mm-hmm.
No. It may be to where the family may even say, hey, my child has made all this progress. We are good. It could be where the therapist is saying, wait, they need to be working on this, but the mom may say, no, I'm good. I've got the tools. I can still do it. It's not a contract where you have to stay in it,
I love that.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, okay, I just need a little booster to find out what to do, how to do it, and kind of get me rolling along to see how to work with my child. And even though I'm doing this interaction, even though I'm talking to them, singing with them, and doing all this, it's like, was that enough? And then just to have that reassurance. And sometimes we all just need to be reassured of what we're doing. But no, just because you apply does not mean that you have to stay in it. Another thing is, it doesn't mean that, you have to have all of these services, because I can't handle someone coming to my house, like one provider coming once a week, another provider coming once a week, or whatever. It would overwhelm me. Some families are okay with that, but some aren't. And you don't have to do it. You have to remember, it's up to you. This is your schedule. What will work best for you?
That's perfect. And I love, because there's literally no risk in calling you guys if you have concerns that way, because it's like, one, if they're not eligible, if they're not truly delayed, then, you give them resources. It's just a wraparound village from the start. And I love that.
Right. I mean, some of it is just like, okay, well, I'm not sure. And then you have these tests that were done that are out of, they don't cost anything, no matter your income. And it's like, okay, I'm good. We're right where we're supposed to be. I had concerns, but I wasn't sure if I had concerns. But now you just validated what I needed to know.
Yes.
So if they're not eligible, like I said, but a parent can say, well, they still have some delayed in speech, but we're like, okay, but according to our guidelines, they're not eligible for us, but we're not saying, it doesn't matter what you think. Just because you think there's a concern and we're saying no, you're not important. That's not the case. It's like, okay, they're not eligible for us. So now let's look at it. We can give you some providers and that are different clinics, and let you know what insurance they take and so forth, just to give you that information.
That's wonderful. That's wonderful. Well, I think, and the only other thing that I wanted to add, I loved how you talked about the coaching part of it. I'm actually a speech therapist by trade. And and I do have a little bit of experience with early steps, but that coaching piece of it, it's so beautiful because it, like you said, it's all about empowering the parents. And my experience is that they help you work it into things you're already doing. And it's just natural and meaningful and just so, so powerful.
Exactly. Like some parents would say, well, I'm not the therapist. That's their job. I'm going to sit back. Like I said, okay, if you have a therapist there 1 hour a week and you're with that child 167 hours a week, what are you doing? But then if you have a therapist, they'll come in and show you. And then that way, when you're working on, whether it was for feeding, or whatever the issue may be, then that way you're gaining that knowledge and that confidence to be able to feed your child and not worry about some issues that may happen, because your child still has to eat. They can't eat 1 time a week, And so you want the provider. If the provider is not showing you what to do, how to do it, then you might want to consider changing providers, because you want someone who is going to work with you. Again, it's about training. It's about education. It's not like you're a speech therapist. You're not going to make me a speech therapist, but you can assist me with my child, and show me what to do for their communication, for them to be able to grow, to have more words, to be able to say phrases, just so I will know what to do and how to help them.
Absolutely. And I know that I always, in the early steps providers I've known, look at like, okay, so what are you guys doing in your daily life already? And here's how we can work that in. So it's not extra. It's just kind of enhancing what you're already.
Right. And and the thing is, like, with toys or whatever, we ask the providers not to bring the toys in, because that is not the magic toy, which now, with the global pandemic, we wouldn't want to do it anyway, but this is not the magic toy. Now, if you have, I'm sitting in a toy room, but if you have a toy, as like an off screen, then okay, we have these purple grapes here. Okay, well then we can find out what to do with these purple grapes that have Velcro on the other side and actually connect to another set of grapes. So we can work with what we have. So when you leave, I know how to play with them, and other things that we can actually do with this, instead of, oh, well, you just took the toys off. Now, what do I do?
Yeah, exactly. You're
Yeah.
right. You're right. Well,
So,
Tracy, that was awesome information. I thank you so much for your time and your knowledge and sharing this with us.
well, I appreciate it. I'm sorry about the internet issue.
No, that happens to me daily. So that's